Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. Like I said, I've been pretty busy doing life stuff. I'm doing a lot of interviews, so I've constantly been posting those. But I feel like I've been slacking on the album reviews as of lately. But I'll have a new series coming out very soon that will be going through a bunch of records that I wasn't able to get around to in time, but I still wanted to review or at least talk about. So be looking forward to that. And if you're new to the channel and if you haven't checked out this stuff, make sure to follow us on social media, as well as make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It means a lot. But tonight, we're going to be talking about Dreamhouse's newest record, Reverberating Silence. So, for those of you who haven't heard of this band, they recently signed to In Vogue Records. Shoutouts to Nick Moore. He's awesome. He's always, putting out some really great records and, really signing some awesome underground, sort of smaller bands. And, as a smaller channel, I appreciate that and just seeing him grind over the years. But I've been friends with Dreamhouse for a very long time. I think it's been like 3 or 4 years now. And I actually did a review of their first record, Bloom, which they released back in 2016. And was excited that shout out to Derek and Bree and Jared and Crispy for letting me review your record. It comes out today, so make sure to check it out. Go follow them on their social medias, which will all be in the description below. But I'm going to go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Losing Myself. This is one of the singles that had been released prior to the album coming out today. But I love the sort of little atmospheric touches that are on this song. I think it really makes it come to life. I think that is a common thread throughout the entire record, is that it has this kind of like ethereal sort of electronic feel to it. And I appreciate that, because I feel like it gets less stale as the record kind of goes on, and as you listen to songs, it really makes it unique. I think, each song has its own sort of vibe to it, which is awesome. I really like the lead guitar lines done by Derek. I don't know if they enlisted another guitar player, but I know he does a lot of the rhythm stuff, when they're playing live, but also does a lot of lead stuff while they're in the studio. So really like the lead work. An awesome job, Derek. And I also like the just electronic layering, and I know he also did the mix and master on this record as well. So it definitely feels like, all encompassing, all in one place. And I know that they had been sitting on a lot of these songs for a little bit. When I met them at launch a couple years ago, I think 2 years ago, they actually had some songs that were like in the rough stages, in the demo stages. So it was really cool to hear them and kind of hear them on this record, which I'll be talking about little later on. But my favorite part of this song in particular is actually Crispy's drumming. I think he's really got this really nice subtle touch when it comes to the drum fills and just kind of like the rhythmic just compiling of the song. I think he really makes it unique. There's some other songs that I feel like he does really well on, but this one I felt like, while it was subtle, I think the little subtleness here and there really it was something that I picked out. Also, I will say, in comparison to a lot of the other songs that they had released at the time, because I actually didn't listen to any of the singles prior to this release, which is usually a bit strange for me, but this one feels a little bit slower in terms of tempo, which is not really a particular problem to me. It was just maybe something to get used to and something I wasn't really, I guess, expecting from them. But overall sound is, indicative to what they do in general. And I feel like it's very much in the Dreamhouse sort of vein, and I appreciate that. But I also feel like it also gives a pretty good indication of how the record goes, in terms of just like it being more kind of a rock alternative sort of record. So we're going to move into track number 2, which is In the Clouds. I like Bree's vocals on this track. I think she really has the opportunity to kind of show off her expansive range so far into the record. And I think that this song kind of starts off with her just kind of going out the gates, out the get go. But I like that she kinda hits her middle range, and then as well as that kind of has almost these kind of wispy, sort of falsetto-y parts, throughout most of the song. I think just the way that she kind of traverses her vocal range is really awesome. She has, quite a variety of range, so, just to kind of, hear somebody utilize the entire thing, I think is really well done, and I think it obviously speaks to the character of her voice. But this one has a really cool swing to it. I love the sort of rhythmic back lines, backed up by not only Jared on the bass, but also Crispy on the drums. I think they really kind of hold it down in a lot of these songs, which is definitely nice considering I feel like bass players, more specifically, don't get a lot of love. So whenever I get a chance to kind of promote something like that, I definitely do so. Um, but this one, again, liking the sort of addition of group vocals in the last chorus of the song. I think it is a well-rounded song. While it might not be one of my favorites off the record, I think it really kind of keeps in tone with how the rest of the record's working out. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is Closer to Comfort. This one features Andy Cizik of Makari, Wanderer, and now Monuments, I believe. So he's definitely making his way around, and also being a label mate to Dreamhouse. I wasn't really surprised with this guest feature, but it was definitely cool to hear his voice. But I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But getting back to the just root of the song, I love the sort of delayed reverby guitar intro that Derek had come up with. I think it is really awesome, and I think it is further backed up by some really great electronic parts as well. I think they really created an awesome atmosphere that feels super saturated. I think, again, the mix and mastering on this track was really well put together. I think the rest of the record is really well put together, but I think this one definitely accentuates just like every little bits and piece of the song. The layered vocals add to that big sound, as well as I had mentioned earlier, and the chorus in this track is super catchy. And I think that just the juxtaposition of softer verses against these sort of stronger, a little bit more rocky, a little bit more heavier choruses is definitely a tried and true thing, but I think it works out super well, and I think they went with their gut on that one, and it worked out. Um, Andy comes in at around the 2 minutes and 40-second mark and leads out around the 3 minutes and 25-second mark, which is a pretty big portion of the song, which is awesome. I think he has some really great vocals. As you know, I love Makari a lot, so it was really cool to hear his vocals. However, if I had one little gripe about the song, I would say I would have loved to hear Andy and Bree kind of do a nice like harmony collab part. I think that would have been really tight. Especially maybe like the last portion of the chorus would have worked out really beautifully. And I felt like that was something that I was hoping for, something that I was expecting, just considering the gravitas of this song. I felt like they could have done something like that, and it would have just kind of sold it home for me. Otherwise, I still think it's one of my favorites. I think it is extremely well written, and is definitely one of those, standout tracks on the record. So we're going to move into track number 4, which is Tie Me Down. This is another single that they had released in tandem with the record, but instrumentally, I definitely get that sort of nostalgic feeling, like old school Paramore. I know that they get that comparison a lot, and I know I had also made the comparison in their EP, but it just feels that like old school, like Riot era sort of Paramore, which is definitely nice. And I think that they definitely paid homage to them, whether intentionally or not. I feel like it very much struck that nerve, in at least in my book, and I feel like similarly with a lot of people that will be listening to this record. But really well executed. I love this sort of similar rhythmic pattern, as I had mentioned, kind of being compared to Paramore. That second verse feels very Paramore-esque, especially of that era of Riot. All We Know Is Falling, that sort of stuff. And I like that they're bringing that sound back. I think they could, if there's any band out there that could do that, I feel like they can do it definitely really well. I also dig Bree's lower register matched up with the harmonies in the bridge. I think that was just kind of completely out of nowhere. And I think it really works because her lower range, I mean, we all know that she can definitely belt out some notes and hit those higher registers. But when she has those sort of like subtle, more softer, more like, deep rooted sort of vocal parts, those are the things that I love when I hear her voice in a song. And I think it was a lot of the reason why I like some of a good portion of the songs on the EP, Bloom as well. But extremely well written, well executed. Definitely another solid favorite song off this record. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is Clarity. This is the other single. I believe this was the first single that they released, and this was actually the one that I had listened to at launch a couple years back, and I still love this song. I told Derek how much I love this song, and I'm glad that it made it onto the record because it is definitely awesome. Instrumentally, it's super killer. I love that it kind of accents Bree's vocals, which I think a lot of these songs do, but this one definitely just sells it home that much more. It has a great groove to it, and I love the sort of earworm quality of this song. It definitely is something that I look for in a lot of music that comes out. If it's something that I can remember, it's something that, the melody lines like memorable, stuff like that. It's one of those songs that will get caught in my head and I love it. And I feel like if you haven't already listened to it or if you're in love with it already, you'll definitely be singing along to the chorus. This is one that I feel like would just translate super well live. And hopefully they definitely play this one live when they do so. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is All In. I think this is the most recent one, recent single. But this one is really solid. I like that Bree really stretches for a lot of these notes. She really hits some super high notes in this track, and it is insane. Especially in the chorus, like the latter half portion of the chorus, she really goes hard, and I appreciate that just from like a reviewer standpoint, just putting it, no pun intended, all in into this track, and it feels very much so. I also like the inclusion of piano as well. There's another track that I feel like does it a little bit better later on. So definitely give that one a listen. Again, a solid track, may not be one of my favorites, but I think it's well rounded. So we're gonna move into track number 7, which is The Outside. Instrumentally, it feels almost like DDD, like Tillian-esque in that sort of wave of stuff. It has that kind of like real like I don't even know how to describe it. It's really got that awesome guitar work that again is backed up by some really solid riffs from Derek, but it has that like really kind of like almost fast paced like rhythmic sort of pattern to it, and it's one that right off the bat when I initially listened to it, I knew this one was going to be one of my favorites, like amongst the top 3 for sure. And as well as that, I think this song definitely, in terms of the band in general, I think fires on all cylinders. The bass sounds great. The drumming kind of like fills and lines really work well. And I think Bree's vocals just added on top of that is really nice. I think it's got a really kind of groovy feel to it that I wasn't really expecting from them. It was something that kind of took me by surprise. It's a little bit more vibey. It's a little bit more like punchy, really catchy. And it was something that I felt like was outside of their box, and it definitely worked for them. I would love to hear more stuff in this kind of vein. I think they would do it definitely a justice. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is Trust Me. I feel like this one is the most rock laden track. While it isn't all like super like in your face, I feel like it definitely has like that sort of like thick tone that you would get from like a real good rock track. And so it starts off strong and then it really kind of keeps with the energy. I think it slows down a little bit in the second verse, but then picks back up in the chorus. The lead guitar work really shines in a track like this, especially when they go a little bit heavier. I feel like it's accentuated just that much more. It's one of those tracks that I feel like, maybe upon first listen, people might not particularly be on board with, but I listened to it few more times, and it's definitely one that I think is solid for sure. So we're gonna move into track number 9, which is Regret. This one, I love the piano in this track. Whoever did the piano, I don't know if it was in the band or if they had somebody else write the piano parts in it, but it's just super well executed. I love that it kind of carries that theme throughout the entire track. And overall, I thought the song was going to be a lot softer. But when Bree's vocals kind of came in, I was like, are they really going to kind of like switch it up in the chorus or something like that? And my thoughts happen to be true that they do switch it up just that little bit. I think the balance of melodicness and heaviness in this track really work in its benefit. It has some really great energy, but also having a great focus around that awesome piano piece, especially at the beginning portion of the track and like that first chorus, first verse. It works out super well. It's definitely one of those sleeper songs off the record that I think is a hidden gem, just because I feel like most people pass it off as being kind of like a more melodic, a little bit softer track, and they really kind of hit you with some awesome guitar work, like, about maybe like 45 seconds in, which is really cool because, again, it's something that I wasn't expecting. And much like The Outside, it was one of those tracks that I just keep coming back to because it's so good. So we're going to move into the last track, track number 10, which is At My Worst. This one is the softer song. It has a bit more of a softer touch to it. But I think they really work their magic on this one. It doesn't necessarily have to be a just like real loud and aggressive track. And I think that they go soft and then they hit that real bigger chorus. And I think the transition of that just really works well. And I think that's where they show a lot of their strength, and just kind of wit as a band, to kind of like go with the atmospheric flow of the track. I also like that Brie, in terms of her vocal delivery, almost has sort of a rhythmic, sort of lyrical delivery to it, which I think is really cool. I feel like she wasn't really utilizing it a lot in a lot of the previous tracks that were off the record. So it's cool to hear her kind of do something different and switch it up. Um, that's what I felt like was really awesome. And there's some elements of like modern pop in here as well that I feel like obviously lend itself well to kind of more of the softer stuff. So I think it's a good way to end off the record. It's not a completely soft song, but I think it's definitely more on the sort of like softer indie, like alternative sort of stuff. So some pros and cons that I have about the record. I think cons, there's a lack of contrast. I felt like listening through to the record, there were some songs that kind of blurred the gray lines between, track 1 and track 2, or like, um, maybe 6 and like 8 or something like that. It definitely felt like certain songs kind of bled into some other songs. There are some standout tracks that I feel like that I had talked about previously that I feel like were ones that when I listened to the record, I knew where I was at in terms of the standing. But I just felt like there was just a little bit a lack of like contrast between songs, and it being 10 songs, I feel like, they definitely could have switched it up. There was, some really interesting songs. Like I feel like The Outside was really different. Regret was definitely different. Clarity was one of the different tracks. And I feel like with those songs, they definitely feel very Dreamhouse-esque, but I feel like they also take it on a completely different direction, which is definitely what I'm looking for, and I hope that they kind of play off of in future releases. But just speaking of vocals, I think that again, Brie is a phenomenal vocalist. She's definitely an underrated female vocalist, and if you haven't checked out Dreamhouse, I would highly recommend doing so. Even their older EP Bloom, I think she did some really great work, and they had a feature by Lucas Mayar of Veil of Maya, which is definitely super cool. And having Andy on this record is awesome too. He's great. Check out Makari as well. But I think the biggest thing that sold me on this record is the band synergy. I felt like, while each part was kind of recorded individually, it felt very cohesive. It felt together, at least in terms of just the playing and just the arrangements of tracks. It feels very much in their line, and I feel like it's a really good transition from Bloom, which they wrote and released in 2016, to now in almost 2020. I think that they have grown a lot as a band in 3 years, and I think this expansion of themselves and their music, I think, is definitely shown in this record. Overall, I think it's really solid. There are some, road bumps along the way, but I think that's, definitely with a lot of records. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. I hope that maybe they take kind of my criticism with a light hand. It's definitely some tracks that were on this record I was just really stoked on, and there's songs that I'll probably still listen to, well after this review's over with. So, my overall rating for Dreamhouse's Reverberating Silence, I'm going to be giving it a 9.3 out of 10. It's definitely one to give a listen to, at the very least. And if you enjoy it, make sure to pick it up. I mean, they're newly signed to In Vogue, and if you want to help them hit your city, definitely help them, either by buying it, streaming it, checking it out on iTunes, whatever. Um, Definitely give them some love. And again, I can't show enough love to them for always, you know, checking out the channel, believing in what I do, and it's cool to kind of get something just that tiny bit early. So let me know in the comments what your favorite tracks are. If you agree with me, if you disagree, I'd love to know. I always love having conversations with the fans in the comments below. It's super sick, and I want to hear your side of the story. So definitely give me some of that wisdom. And if you enjoyed the review, make sure to share it, like it, subscribe. It goes a long way. We'll have some more stuff. Follow us on social media to keep up with some stuff. I do a little behind the scenes stuff, mostly on Instagram, and some stuff on Facebook. Twitter, I feel like I'm lacking a little bit, so if you got some Twitter game, let me know how I can improve on that. But overall, check out the socials. I'm trying to post as frequently and as often as I can. So thank you guys for sticking with me. Also, thank you for 15,000 subscribers. Super sick. I couldn't be more stoked. We've got some really awesome interviews coming up that I can't quite say yet, but I'm really excited. So thank you guys for watching. My name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Deuces. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.